the retreat that turned silence into luxury. At first, guests thought something was wrong. No music, no ambient sound, no reassurance filling the air, just silence. To understand how silence itself became the most valuable luxury offering, we have to return to a moment when noise stopped being optional. Notifications followed everywhere. Conversations overlapped endlessly. Even rest came with stimulation. Silence was no longer peaceful. It was unfamiliar. This retreat was built as a refusal, not against comfort, against excess input. Located far from cities' flight paths and signal towers, the land was chosen for what it lacked. No mechanical hum, no distant traffic, no constant reminder of elsewhere. The architects designed not to add sound, but to remove it completely. The moment guests arrived, something felt exposed. Without background noise, there was nowhere for thoughts to hide. Footsteps sounded deliberate. Breathing felt amplified. Even the smallest movement carried weight. The retreat did not soften this effect. It welcomed it. Rooms contained almost nothing that made sound. Fabrics absorbed echoes. Surfaces muted interaction. Doors closed without clicks. Even water moved quietly. The environment did not distract. It waited. At first, guests tried to fill the silence. They spoke more. They moved unnecessarily. They searched for stimulation. But silence is gravity. The harder they pushed against it, the more noticeable it became. The reveal began when resistance faded, when guests stopped filling space and allowed quiet to exist without purpose. That was the moment luxury changed, because this retreat did not sell peace. It sold confrontation. And once silence was no longer avoided, it began revealing things comfort usually conceals. As hours passed, the silence deepened instead of fading. Guests realized it did not behave like ordinary quiet. It expanded. It pressed gently against attention, drawing awareness inward. Without sound to mark time, moments stretched and contracted unpredictably. The reveal unfolded through discomfort first. Thoughts surfaced without invitation. Unfinished conversations replayed. Decisions long delayed demanded space. Silence removed the buffer that noise usually provides. There was no escape through distraction. The retreat anticipated this. Staff interactions were minimal and intentional. Words were used sparingly. Instructions were short. Eye contact replaced explanation. The environment encouraged listening rather than responding. Guests noticed their senses sharpening. Subtle sounds emerged. Wind through trees. Fabric moving against skin. The distant rhythm of their own breathing. Silence was not empty. It was layered. Over time, speech began to feel unnecessary. Conversations shortened naturally. Gestures replaced words. Guests learned to communicate without filling space. The absence of noise became shared, not awkward. But this shift created tension. Silence does not negotiate. It exposes. Some guests struggled. They felt restless, anxious, unanchored, accustomed to measuring value through output and response. They found the lack of feedback unsettling. Silence offered no validation. Others leaned in completely. They spent hours walking slowly, sitting without agenda, letting thoughts rise and fall without judgment. For them, the retreat became a mirror. The build-up intensified as the retreat revealed its true function. This was not rest. It was recalibration. And recalibration demands honesty. By the second day, something unmistakable changed. Guests stopped waiting for silence to end. They began listening to what it was saying. The pressure was building, and the quiet was doing exactly what it was designed to do. The conflict emerged when silence stopped feeling neutral, without noise to soften edges. Inner narratives grew louder. Doubts surfaced. Regrets replayed. Questions without answers refused to stay buried. The build-up intensified as guests realized something unsettling. Silence was not calming them. It was confronting them. For people accustomed to control, this felt threatening. They could not manage the experience. They could not optimize it. Silence did not respond to effort. Some guests tried to reintroduce structure. They created routines. They counted steps. They imposed order where none was required. The retreat gently resisted. Activities were optional. Schedules were loose. Nothing rewarded urgency. Those who surrendered experienced a shift. Thoughts lost urgency. Emotions moved through without resistance. The need to react softened. But not everyone was ready for this exposure. A few guests left early, not because the retreat failed, because it worked. Staff recognized the turning point. They knew when a guest had crossed from discomfort into awareness. Silence became companion rather than adversary. The emotional pressure peaked when guests understood the core truth. Noise had never been the problem. Avoidance was. The retreat had not removed sound. It had removed distraction. And once distraction disappeared, clarity arrived without permission. The moment of reckoning was near. Silence had done its work. The climax arrived when silence no longer felt heavy. It felt precise. Guests noticed a shift internally. Thoughts slowed without force. Emotions surfaced, then passed. Nothing demanded reaction. Silence revealed itself not as absence, but as space. Room to notice. Room to choose. Room to stop filling every moment. The retreat's power came into focus. It did not calm the mind. It taught guests how to listen to it. By the final days, speech returned carefully. Words felt heavier, more deliberate, less disposable. Guests left changed in subtle ways. They tolerated noise less. They paused more often. They spoke only when something needed saying. The resolution was quiet but enduring. Silence had become a skill, not an escape. A resource, not a retreat. This place redefined luxury by removing stimulation. It proved that the rarest experience is not comfort. It is clarity without interference. In a world that never stops speaking, this retreat offered something radical: the freedom to hear yourself again. The most unexpected discovery the retreat produced was not the clarity guests found in the silence. It was the texture of that clarity. People expected silence to be empty. What they found was full, not of noise, of signal, the subtle, continuous information that the body generates and sends, and that the conscious mind, under ordinary conditions, cannot hear above the ambient noise of modern life. Heart rate, tension patterns, the particular quality of fatigue that signals depletion rather than tiredness, the difference between a thought that arrives with urgency and one that arrives with weight. These signals had always been present. The retreat did not create them. It removed the interference that had prevented them from being heard. And in doing so, it restored a capacity that guests had not known they were missing. The capacity for self-knowledge through direct sensation. Not self-knowledge constructed from reflection and narrative, but felt in the body, in real time. This is what the retreat was at its deepest level. Not a place of rest, a place of restoration, of the most fundamental kind. The restoration of the ability to receive information from your own existence, to hear what your life is telling you, without the noise of everything else, drowning it out. Guests who left with that ability intact were different in ways they could not easily describe. More calibrated, less reactive, better at knowing when to speak and when to stay quiet, better at knowing when to act and when to wait. Not because they had learned a technique, but because they had been reminded of something they already knew, that the most important information is often the quietest, and that hearing it requires only one thing: stopping long enough in silence to listen. The retreat knew this. Its designers had not built a spa. They had built the conditions for attention. The difference matters enormously. A spa optimizes comfort. A retreat optimizes receptivity. And receptivity, in a world built for transmission, is perhaps the scarcest resource of all. Everyone is broadcasting. Fewer and fewer people are receiving, not because they are uninterested, because the conditions for reception no longer exist in most of the environments they inhabit. This retreat rebuilt those conditions from the ground up, in a place chosen specifically for the absence of everything that prevents them. What guests found inside that absence was not emptiness. It was a full, continuous signal of their own existence, waiting, as it had always been, for them to stop long enough to hear it. That is the luxury this retreat provided. Not silence, yourself. In a world that charges for everything, that is the one thing most people have not thought to look for until they find it, in the quiet, exactly where it has always been. The